Hi guys, Racer here, 38 POS Racing. Tonight's installment on 4.3 Corvair, V6 Corvair. It's part 2, I guess. We're going to discuss what it takes to make the 4.3 work in the Corvair. Last installment we talked about attaching it to the driveline, to the torque converter, to the transmission. One thing that you need to do is, well, the Corvair, like most longitudinal, front to back engines, viewed from the front of the car, the engine rotates clockwise. Corvair engine's the same way. From the front of the car, it turns clockwise. But mounted in the car, the flywheel is at the front of the car, the pulleys are at the back. Same thing with the 4.3, the front of the engine turns clockwise. But here we turned it around. So the front of the engine is now in the back. Water pumps towards the back, flywheels towards the front. So we need to make it rotate counterclockwise. And what we do is in marine applications with twin engines in the 90s, I'd say, maybe into the 2000s, I don't know if it's even that late, they would rotate them opposite directions so that the props would not try to make the back of the boat go sideways. They would work against each other, keep a nice straight course. What you need is a reverse rotation camshaft. I found what I was told is the last remaining 4.3 reverse rotation flat tappet cam in the free world. Not encouraging. Speed Pro, it's a 1050M, I believe. Oh, CS 1050M. Last one I could find, and I searched for quite a while. With that, you also need to have a different drive for the cam, because in this installation the camshaft still turns clockwise from the front. So the cam and crank need to turn different directions. They do that with a gear-to-gear, no idler drive timing set. If you've got two sprockets in a chain, they both turn the same way. You have two gears and an idler, they turn the same way. Gear to gear, a lot of old straight sixes did this. They turn opposite directions as they go by. That's that trick. Another thing is that the crankshaft seals are oftentimes directional. I had a little short on that. I'll throw some pictures in here somewhere. That particularly on the rear mains, the seal lip has little wiper serration ribs, whatever you care to call them, at an angle. And those are designed so when the crankshaft goes by, any oil remaining on the crankshaft gets against that little lip there, that little rib, and it pushes it back into the oil pan, the crankcase area. If you were to run a standard rotation seal on there, it would pump oil like nobody's business. The front seal I found on this is non-directional, unidirectional. There are no wiper ribs in there. So that one doesn't care. Another thing, I know what I did with it. There it is. Pistons. Did a short on that too. The piston, the wrist pin is not in the center line of the piston in most cases. I will be wrong if I said every case. They are actually offset a wee little bit, and that is because on compression, or the power stroke, the thrust of the piston, the thrust of the combustion on the top of the piston, working against the angle of the rod, pushes it to the side of the bore. They try to counteract that a little bit by moving the pin over to that side so you don't get so much piston rock in there. So on this one, I had all the pistons put on backwards. The machinist really looked at me funny over that. Hopefully it was the right thing to do. But, you know, a quick rundown. The block's the same, the head's the same. Your oil pump, your distributor is the same. It's conventional rotation. Water pump is, on this one, I believe it's an 85 Corvette with the 350. They used the short Chevy small block water pump architecture. You know there's a long and a short. If you're a hot rodder, you know that. If you're not, you can look it up. But in the Corvette, they run it with a serpentine belt. They run it off the back side of the serpentine belt. So in the Corvette, the water pump turns the opposite direction of the crankshaft. Well, in this, I need it to turn the opposite direction of a standard crankshaft. Mine's turning the opposite way already. So I'm just running a V-belt setup on it. It turns the way the water pump was designed. It works well. The firing order changes. The firing order now is one of the simplest you have to remember. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom, done. You set the valves the same. I'm not sure if there's going to be an issue with the dual plane intake I'm using. I hope not, because that's the one I'm using. I don't think there should be, because the piston position is the same kind of idea, just in the opposite order. But those are things you need to consider before taking on something like this. First off, can you find a camshaft for your engine that will allow it to rotate counterclockwise viewed from the front? Be warned, when they're describing the rotation of an engine, technically it is from the drive end, the flywheel end. So technically a small block 350 typically turns counterclockwise. But apples and oranges, as long as you got it right, you're right. So I think the later model 4.3 with a roller cam setup, I think that those are still available. Don't have a roller block, couldn't check. Well, didn't bother checking, I couldn't use it. But those are things that need to be addressed if you want to take on this challenge. If you like doing fabrication, really your own engineering, problem solving, all of that, it's fun. And it's going to be a fun car, I know that. It's going to have anywhere between 220, 250, something like that, horsepower, I believe. That's not stellar, but the high horse Corvair, turbo Corvair was 180, and any Corvair of that era now, most likely, for one, the carburetor is going to be pretty well wore out and finicky. Corvairs have either 2 carburetors, 4 carburetors, or a turbo and a side draft. And they all have their issues these days. If you got somebody to rebuild one really nice, and you're good at tuning multiple carburetors, you know, motorcycle guy, you gotta have some of that experience. You can leave it stock. I mean, they're great cruisers, but this one I'm hoping is less problematic. And I know it's going to be fun. Please like the video. Definitely please comment if you have questions or criticize me. Tell me I put the pistons in wrong, I did that, whatever. That's fine. I'm learning. You guys are watching, you're learning. Might just be learning me screwing up, I don't know. A subscription would be great if you throw that on there, because I'm going to be talking about more of this and throwing more pictures on it. Have a good day, folks. Thank you very much for watching.